calling to be done. And so when it comes to the sacredness and looking at our bodies, like our bodies is a temple. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, and we should treat our temple in a way where, you know, seeds shouldn't just be planted everywhere. People shouldn't just be entering the temple. I always say, like, everybody can worship at my temple,
Okay.
right? And you shouldn't be worshiping at everybody's temple. And so
Yeah.
that is something to take into consideration, you know, during the journey. And I would also say that's why I talked about waiting well as a mindset. There is some unpacking and unlearning and relearning and learning that has to take place to be able to embrace it in the way that the Lord intended us to embrace the journey, because we've been taught things from the world, we've been taught things from experiences, and that doesn't all necessarily mean that was how it was originally designed. But
Mm-hmm.
we are living out, you know, the experience that we have now, and so we have a choice in that matter, um, as we go forward.
You don't know that. You don't know which way to go. God's plan. Do you really understand what's God's plan? A lot of times, man plan that we design and we follow.
Welcome to the Superpower Podcast. This is a special week because we got our first lady guest on the show, and this is Marissa Lee from So Evolve LLC. So, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm great. I'm great. Tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, so Evolve is an HR consulting company, but it's twofold. So one part of it is focusing in on helping leaders be able to create time wealth so they can live and lead the life they deserve and fulfill purpose. And then the other part is focused in on my ministry, which is stewarding, helping singles be able to discover the joy of the wait and wait well.
Yep. So, how did you get into, or what was your passion that led you to doing your purpose?
Yeah, so I would say it's always been about an assignment for me from the Lord and Him giving me divine insight. Since I was younger, I've always had um, an ability to be out there, be the advocate, be the voice. And as time has gone forward, he has brought that together in the work that I do with Time Wealth and then also with Weight and Wealth. So it's usually me living these life experiences and then being able to go teach it and help other people's on their journey. And so when it comes to Time Wealth, I was struggling with time. When it comes
Mm,
with waiting well, I was struggling with waiting well. And then once I've been able to master that, that's where he transitioned me into helping others with that in the process.
okay. Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you from?
I'm originally from Champaign, Urbana, Illinois, but
Okay.
I claim Columbus, Ohio, because I lived here pretty much the longest.
Okay. I can hear a little accent. I don't even know where
Everybody
you
always
came
say
from.
that. I don't have an
It's something there.
I don't have an
It's
accent.
something there.
Yeah.
Well, look, the waiting well.
Hmm.
Take us through kind of like what that's about as far as just a little in depth of when a person joins the waiting well community. What does that look like?
Yeah, I would say waiting well is a mindset, it's a war cry, and it's a lifestyle. So it really is about being able to live your life the way the Lord has called you to as you're navigating this single season. It helps to prepare you for a marriage, and it also puts you in a space to be able to hear well done. Because at the end of the day, we want to be in front of him hearing well done, nothing else. We want to be able to enter those gates. And a part of going and navigating through the single season, there are a lot of different struggles and things that can pop up that can hinder you in doing that if you aren't rooted in understanding what he's calling you to do and being able to navigate the pitfalls that can come up during that
Hmm.
process.
What are some of maybe the challenges when people first come in and what them conversations is like when they're just like, I don't know if I want to wait.
Yeah.
I ain't waiting well yet, but I'm working on it.
I mean, it's across the spectrum, and people have different reasons as to why they think about not waiting well. Some of them is just like they've tasted of the fruit and they like, okay, like I don't know how to pull back from that. And then it's just other people, they've experienced traumas. Other people have, because we have the full spectrum of people who have been unmarried all the way to widowed, divorced, things like that. And so there's a lot of different elements and factors that come into play waiting. But then from the well part of it, it's a patience. It's like building a muscle with that process. And I'm going to reference back to the word because it's knowing his laws and statutes that can help to keep. And you have to get the mindset of this is something that I want to do, not only just for myself, but to be pleasing to our Father, which is the first relationship we should be taking into consideration.
Nah, I totally understand. So as far as the waiting aspect, is
Mm-hmm.
there any men involved in the wait the waiting well community?
Yeah, we have some, but we need more. Men
Okay.
of God, show up, pull up.
Now,
But there are men who are a part of some of the work that is being done. Now, the ministry, the Lord gave it to me, so I'm stewarding the ministry as the person He's planted the seed in. But I definitely look to bring in men to give their perspective because I am not a man, so
yeah.
I can't speak to their experiences and their journey, and that's where we have different voices to share their perspectives on how they've been waiting, how to help the fellow brothers in Christ as they're going through the process, and just have that real men talk,
Yeah.
that the experiences are going to be, different from,
Men,
myself and the
yeah.
ladies.
So from your talks so far, is it is it harder for men or harder for women?
Define hard.
Well, hard to not um, explore sexuality before marriage.
I think that is individual based when you come into part about being hard, when you're talking about it being hard. Because like everybody is not at the same starting point. Everybody didn't have the same experiences. Everybody hasn't gone through the same thing. So if you talk to somebody who has not had sex before, let's talk about that element of waiting. That's going to be different from somebody who has had sex and and on a waiting journey and started that process, or it's just the beginning for them and now they're trying to figure out what that looks like for them. So people are at different starting points, so hard is relative to that person's experience.
Okay, okay, I understand, but I was just trying to see if you had like a
Yeah.
little. Okay, I had like 30 men that I talked to. I got 40 women I talked to, and the men find it a little harder than the women. Just a overall, cause I know it's all about your personal development and growth, and your personal choices. But I tend to think it's harder for men,
And why do you think that?
cause I think it kind of goes against nature. You know, I feel like even though we all have to have a level of discipline. And that level of discipline allows us to be in situations to maybe wait or, and I think that comes with growth at times, but it also comes with the understanding that as men, it's almost natural for us, um, in my mind, and from conversations I had, you know, we was here to plant seeds. So we could plant 7, 8 seeds at one time. So we got to have a little bit of that in us. It's just all about being disciplined with it. But with women, um, I look at they're more sacred as far as you know what they let come into their life and their body and different things like that. So I think that mentality may be a little different than a man's.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting perspective. I know for myself when I look at it and I look at the word, the Lord sees us all as sacred. And from a standpoint of, you talked about planting seeds, that's accurate. But women also are part at the beginning, it says be fruitful and multiply. That was the one of the first commands, and a part of the process of people bringing forth. So both women and men had that as a part of what the Lord was calling to be done. And so when it comes to the sacredness and looking at our bodies, like our bodies is a temple. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, and we should treat our temple in a way where, you know, seeds shouldn't just be planted everywhere. People shouldn't just be entering the temple. I always say, like, everybody can worship at my temple,
Okay.
right? And you shouldn't be worshiping at everybody's temple. And so
Yeah.
that is something to take into consideration, you know, during the journey. And I would also say that's why I talked about waiting well as a mindset. There is some unpacking and unlearning and relearning and learning that has to take place to be able to embrace it in the way that the Lord intended us to embrace the journey, because we've been taught things from the world, we've been taught things from experiences, and that doesn't all necessarily mean that was how it was originally designed. But we are living out, the experience that we have now, and so we have a choice in that matter, um, as we go forward.
Okay. So, this is a question I always wanted to ask a woman, but not just any woman, a woman that's deep into the word and understanding. How do you feel about monogamy? I mean, what is it, monogamy, or what's the other word? When you got multiple wives?
Oh, polygamy.
Polygamy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say in the Bible that men have many wives,
Hmm.
but I've talked to different people and different perspectives about that, but mainly men, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I never had a woman's perspective about what they see when they read the Bible, and how does that apply?
Yeah. So I'm definitely in agreement with the Bible that it's monogamy. There should
Okay.
be one man to one wife, and we see this from the very beginning in Genesis. It says the man will leave his family and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one. You also see this in New Testament when you look at Christ and the bride. So Christ is the bridegroom, and we're his bride. There are not multiple brides for Christ. So even when people speak about, oh, well, David had multiple wives, and Solomon, he had all these different wives. Yes, but that does not mean that that was how it was designed, how we were created, the origins of which the Lord had established and what he's calling us to do. And so biblically, it is one man to one wife, whether it's in the natural, or you even also see that replicated spiritually. And for someone, um, saying, well, I want many wives and things, what I would lead them to is like, Solomon was the wisest person in the world. And you know what tripped him up? All
Yeah.
them wives.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing I would leave with them to sit and be like, get in the book yourself and see how that worked out for him, because it was even to the extent of he knew some of the wives weren't called to support what he was doing, to the point where he couldn't even take them into certain places. He had certain things set up for the Lord, and he couldn't bring them in because of that fact. They pulled his heart away from the Lord. And at the end of the day, we have to, it's the relationship with you and that person, but then also, what is your relationship with the Father? It always comes back to the Lord. And are you being pleasing there? And is that person pulling you closer to him, or taking you further away?
Okay. Yeah. So, it's more of a spiritual connection between two people rather than a physical connection.
Hmm.
Okay.
I mean, it's both, because when you see the part of marriage starting to take place, the Bible will say, and he knew her,
Now,
and he knew her. That was a form
yeah.
of the consummation of marriage.
Okay. So
So,
that was code word for They got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yes.
So, nah,
Yes.
but all right, we talked about the physical aspect, the spiritual as aspect. How important do you feel like the financial aspect of a marriage is? Because nowadays, a lot of women earning more than the men,
Mhm.
and before there was a different system that allowed men to be the leaders of their home. So, you being a successful woman, how have that been as far as your relationships or different things, or just the ones you connect with or network with? The financial aspect.
Yeah. I what I see with that more is the issue comes up more with the man versus myself because it's wanting to be in the space to provide and in some aspects looking to see like am I able to do for her what she can do for herself. And
Mm.
I definitely understand that, especially with you know, if we look at the word of man don't work, don't eat. Like he's a part of that role is to provide and be a provider. But a provider is beyond just the financial aspect, and I think that's a piece that men get caught up on. Now, I'm not saying be out here and you ain't making money, you giving, everything else, but there's a balance to that. And it's not all about money. And I think it also makes a difference to where a woman is in her walk and where a man is in his walk with the Lord. Because um, if you are walking with the Lord, he will give you the divine insight on how to set things up, how to position things. And I always say, I'm not dating potential, but if you're in process, that's something different because that is potential being realized. You're putting in the work, you're doing what you need to do, as opposed to you ain't trying to do it, and then I don't have time for that,
So,
especially at my big age. I don't have time for that.
so,
I
so
don't.
potential that don't mean motion, right? So
Right.
potential is just like you could do something if you want. You can support the Superpowers Podcast and Mr. Big Man Greer by going to Amazon.com and purchasing a book today. So, potential is somebody that's more stagnant. They got
Right.
this gift, they got this work that they supposed to be doing, but they ain't doing it.
Right.
That's how. Because I've heard that before. Like
Yeah.
I ain't dating potential, and I didn't understand the aspect of somebody feeling like potential means not. Because potential to me means you moving, and I can see you moving, and you got potential to work.
Yeah,
But
you can see it, but they're not capitalizing on it. They're
yeah,
still a project. And I don't have time for a project. Actually, it's not even my responsibility. And that's getting back to the point of provision and providing. Like before the Lord gave Adam Eve, he had he was working. He gave him purpose. He was working. He was naming the animals. He was doing it all, right? And then he says, not good for man to be alone. And then he presented Eve to, like, you got to be coming to something. Like, what is it there to offer? But that doesn't mean if you don't have everything laid out and together that I'm going to just be like, okay, no, I'm not. You got to make 6 7 figures for me to talk to you.
so like if somebody was just a teacher, like they live working in their purpose. They have a purpose to work with children. They're a teacher. They don't make that much. But your company then grew to be making millions a year.
Mm-hmm.
Who's paying the mortgage?
So I think that is a collective conversation that we would have as a couple.
Okay.
So for me, how I look at that is it's our money versus his money is my money and then my money is my money. It's like we become one. So that's my view. I've grown up, my parents, it's always been theirs was a collective as well. So I believe more so in the collective approach and that we are a unit, not you doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, and I expect you to do all of this. We gotta figure this out together. Like you my teammate, I'm your teammate, and that's where it comes in. I'm bringing favor. You may have an idea. Now I got the other link to help you be able to make it to the next thing. Or maybe it's pushing something that I have, but it's united as one. It's not just like you got to do all of that on your own. I'm not expecting that.
Mm-hmm. I feel you. Now you're an extraordinary woman for that, because a lot of women wouldn't they wouldn't share the millions. I just don't know a lot of women who would be like, because in most cases, not in all, the goal is for the man to be in a position to pay all the bills, and
Yeah.
the woman is there to assist until they get in that position, or if they ever get in that position, we go half. But I've never really seen a case of a woman just being content with like, I'm gonna pay your bills forever.
I didn't
Just
say
be
that.
No, I know you didn't say that.
Let's be clear. I did not say that.
But for me, if I'm making millions, if I'm making millions and you making 70,000, you is automatic. I'm paying all the bills
Yeah.
forever. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes that's where, because a lot of times we want to look at things 50-50.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which in some cases relationships are 50-50. In other cases, they're when we talk about providing and protection, and that's the only reason. That's the only reason a lot of men, um, I feel like, get frustrated with the leadership role, because we are, just like most women are, natural nurturers. Imagine you expecting us to be as nurturing as you.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be hard, But in this day and age, it's not hard for a woman to be very successful now, and just so happen to be in a situation where I love this man, but he don't, what I'm saying, he don't bring to the table what I bring to, and I can really really accept that. I can really really accept the majority. If he never get no better, because I look at like relationships like this. The key to a great relationship is acceptance and content. A lot of people don't like the word content, but I look at content as being happy with what you got, not settling for what you got.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, they look at it as like, I'm not trying to be content and settle. Like, nah, it's about being really happy with what you got and accepting the other person. Because we could put all these expectations on people, right? And they gonna always fail, because ain't nobody gonna be what you want them to be. But if you can accept, if it's like, man, I can accept you every day. You know what I'm saying? Now we might be getting somewhere as far as like on the path to marriage. And that leads me to my next question. What about the
Can I
yeah,
give a little
yeah.
point on that? I think a big part of acceptance, it's one thing when you know that that's your person. It's another thing when you are exploring options. And a lot of times people want marriage privileges and rights when you're not in that dynamic. And so then there's the part of like, okay, accept me here. No, no, you aren't meeting the standard that I have for this to be able to, you haven't passed that level to get access to these different things. And so I think in the discussion around that, a lot of people misconstrue it and they're like, oh, I'm not getting this and they're not giving that. No, you haven't reached that level to get the access to that. So I think there's that piece, and then there's the component of which you have to understand like what are your non-negotiables and what expectation do you have, and if that person doesn't meet it, then you already know from the beginning. And a lot of times people try to force and make it be something.
See, I like that, right? Because I was thinking today, most people have problems because they trying to give what they want. So if you want affection, you trying to give it to give it back, instead of just saying, I want affection in a relationship. If you could provide that, so people get frustrated and they're like, I'm giving all of this and I ain't getting it back in return. Well, look, I ain't got the capacity to give that. I got the capacity to give this, do this work for you. And I think people don't communicate. That's how they try to communicate. I'm this type of person, so I'm gonna give you this, and I want reciprocation.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, that's great, but maybe the balance is me being what I am and you being who you are, and we could balance each other out. If you want somebody the same as you, you should acknowledge that in the beginning instead of
communication
just showing me. Because if you showing me, I'm thinking, look, this is what I get. But if you only giving it to me because you want it back, then I think a lot of times people be like, well, look, if I ain't getting it in return, I ain't gonna give it. So that's an kind of going into
that
what you
has to
saying.
go away, because like in relationship to marriage, it can't just be like, if you do this, I do that.
Yeah.
Like it has to be deeper with your love. Love covers a multitude of sins. Love covers all. Like, and so if you're doing it from a standpoint of, I do this and you do that, then you're going to see that show up.
Yeah. Nah, I get it. That's a deep one, because a lot of people they come into realizing that they don't know the person who they married.
Right.
Because people put it on in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it like it's acceptance from the jump with me. Tell me who you are. Tell me, what you like and what you don't like, and I'm gonna do the same.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of times people try to fix the other person. You say you don't like that now, but and it takes me to a concept. I would say, like, I wear a 13, right? A 12 and a half just don't fit right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I need a 13, but sometimes we be like, damn, well, I wear a 13. So sometimes the 12 and a half look good, and it's like, that's the last one, it look good, but I gotta pass up on it because I wear 13, and after a while I'm gonna wear it. Ain't gonna look good on my feet, but I'm gonna give them away or sell them.
Most people don't pass. That's the issue.
You're right. It takes a lot of wisdom to get to that
point. Most people don't pass, and that's why.
Like what we like,
Yeah. You like them, but now you got blisters. Now you can't walk. Now it's like it's impacting your posture and balance and all of that. But you liked it.
Yeah. I like the way you came back with that. This is a really good podcast. I'm glad you came. You got to come back. Definitely got to go to our sister podcast, Bonnets and Wine. Shout out to them. And before we get up out of here, just if you got any handles people might want to know about, I know you got Instagram page,
yes,
websites.
I do. So on all of social media, I am at Waiting Well Room on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. For So Evolve, I am Marissa Lee. So IAMMarissalelee on all of the different platforms. And then you will see So Evolve out there, which is SOW, like sowing seeds, and then evolve together, EVOLVE. So you can find that online. And if you're looking to go to my website, it would be soevolve.com or waitingwellroom.com, where you can learn more about what I am doing in business and in ministry.
Okay, and before you get up out of here, I gotta give you a gift. I was supposed to have them out here, but I was slipping today. This right here. This
I like a
gift from Mr. Big Man Greer. Shout out to him. Free him. He got 9 books. Y'all go check him out. That's Mr. Big Man Greer. And last question before we go. What do you think your superpower is?
Oh, that's a good one. My superpower is in my voice, because the Lord has really gifted me in that space to speak what he's called me to speak, and that's been able to impact people near and far.
All right. Well, look, thank you again, Miss Marissa Lee.
Thank you.
Y'all make sure y'all tap in, go to those social medias, and whatever you do, make sure you tap into your superpower. We out.
Working the bubble, my guns just ain't bumping them. Yeah, superpowers, I got some of them. The power to make people move without touching them. It's hard to see people's views without judging them. I say peace to the God, I was one of them.
It's just like this. When I started in this situation, I didn't know I could write. Because I never took that initiative to put the pen to the paper. But I wasn't no ignorant dude to creativity. So anything I always went at,